Shedeur Sanders didn't fire back. That's what stood out. When Jeudy clapped his face and tore into him on the sideline, Sanders didn't escalate. He didn't retaliate. Instead, he walked away, choosing maturity over mayhem in a moment that could have spiraled. For a rookie, that kind of emotional control is rare. For a team like the Browns, it's exactly what they need. Jeudy, meanwhile, added another chapter to a troubling pattern that stretches far beyond one sideline outburst. And Jimmy Haslam, watching all unfold, didn't hesitate to take a side.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
This wasn't just a locker room squabble. It became a referendum on what kind of team the Browns want to be. In backing Sanders, Haslam sent a clear message. Composure, leadership, and accountability aren't optional. They're the standard. Jeudy's antics and his declining production are no longer tolerable under a regime that's tired of excuses. The fallout here isn't just disciplinary. It's cultural, and it may define the Browns' identity moving forward. 49ers. The Cleveland Browns didn't just lose control on the field against the 49ers. They lost on the sideline. And what unfolded wasn't just another tense moment in a rough game. It was a full-blown implosion of team dynamics, caught on camera, and now hanging like a cloud over the franchise. In the middle of it all, Jeudy and Shedeur Sanders. Let's break down what actually happened. In the middle of a frustrating game, Jeudy, visibly heated, marched up to Shedeur Sanders on the sideline. Instead of having a constructive conversation, he clapped hard and mockingly in Shedeur's face. Not once, multiple times. Loud, aggressive, and followed up by ripping into him, criticizing his decisions and body language as if he were some kind of authority on Shedeur, still learning how to navigate the NFL as a rookie, stood there and took it. Didn't yell back, didn't make it a scene, didn't escalate. But someone else had intervened. A veteran stepped in and separated the two before it got even worse. The fallout was immediate. The clip went viral. Fans, analysts, and former players lit up social media. The criticism toward Jeudy was swift, and not just about what he said, but what it exposed. This wasn't a heated exchange between two stars in the heat of battle. This was a struggling veteran melting down on a rookie quarterback in front of the entire team. And now, it's not just about a moment of poor judgment. It's about whether Jeudy belongs in this locker room at all. Let's not pretend this came out of nowhere. Jeudy's been walking a thin line for a while. His production has been inconsistent. The stats don't lie. Drops, fumbles, lackluster route running, and zero momentum when the team needs him most. Every time he's been called out, instead of using it to fuel improvement, he's deflected, lashed out, or completely missed the point. Hall of Famer Steve Smith said it best months ago when he called Jeudy just a guy. And Jeudy's response wasn't to prove him wrong. It was to take it personally and do less, not more. Now we're watching that same immaturity spill over on game day, and not toward critics, but toward his own quarterback. And that quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, is handling himself like a professional. In a moment that would have rattled even experienced vets, Sanders kept his composure. No retaliation. No excuses. Just post-game accountability. He talked about needing more time to develop chemistry with his receivers. He focused on improvement. He didn't throw Jeudy under the bus, even though everyone would have understood if he had. That tells you everything you need to know about his mindset. And that's exactly why Browns owner Jimmy Haslam wasted no time stepping in. Haslam, who's seen this franchise go through every kind of dysfunction possible, immediately backed Sanders. Not with vague comments. Not behind the scenes. He made it known that Shedeur has the organization's support. Haslam praised his maturity, his leadership, and his ability to stay focused in adversity. Meanwhile, his reaction to Jeudy's behavior? Disappointment, frustration, unfiltered disapproval. And when the owner takes a public stance like that, it's not just about this incident. It's about what kind of team they're trying to become. Because this wasn't just one player blowing up. It was a symptom of deeper issues inside the Browns organization. The offense isn't working. Stefanski's run-heavy game plan is dragging the team down. Quarterbacks aren't thriving. Receivers aren't producing, and nobody looks comfortable out there. That kind of dysfunction creates pressure. But pressure doesn't excuse behavior like this. Jeudy's reaction wasn't about passion. It was about ego. And that's a major problem in a locker room where leadership is already scarce, especially when your quarterback is doing everything right. Sanders has been tested since the minute he stepped into the building. The expectations are high. The spotlight is hotter. But through it all, he's remained steady. He's owned his mistakes, responded to criticism with humility, and committed to growing into the role. And now, even in the face of public disrespect from a teammate, he's kept the same energy, calm, focused, unshaken. That's rare. That's leadership. Which brings us back to Jeudy. The Browns didn't bring him in to be a locker room distraction. They brought him in to produce, to give their young quarterback a reliable target. But so far, he's done neither. His body language on the field is sloppy. His effort is inconsistent. And now he's disrupting the locker room. 2. The $52.5 million contract doesn't help his case. You can afford to be high maintenance if you're high-performing. But Jeudy's not. He's offering low value at a high cost. And that math doesn't work when you're trying to build a team identity rooted in accountability. Field. And that's where the Browns find themselves now. They're not just weighing a behavioral issue. They're assessing value, production, culture fit. And right now, all arrows are pointing to one conclusion. Jeudy is expendable. There are already rumors circulating inside the building. Discussions of a trade, talk of possible disciplinary action, even whispers about a release. The message is clear. Haslam's patience has a limit, and this incident pushed it past the breaking point. And don't forget, the locker room is watching this unfold. Players see how management responds when one of their own crosses a line. If the Browns tolerate this kind of behavior, it sends a message that accountability doesn't apply to everyone. But if they take action, real action, they reinforce the standard they claim to uphold. Haslam backing Sanders wasn't just support. It was a challenge to the rest of the team. This is what leadership looks like. If you want to be here, raise your standard. Sanders is earning the respect of his teammates not with speeches or theatrics, but by staying composed under fire. He's doing what franchise quarterbacks are supposed to do, weather the storm and keep the ship steady. Jeudy, on the other hand, is becoming the storm. And in a league where culture often separates good teams from great ones, there's no room for players who undermine progress, especially not when they're dragging down the very leadership you're trying to build around. The Browns have a decision to make. And it's not just about Jerry Jeudy. It's about what kind of organization they want to be moving forward. Do they reward professionalism, or do they enable ego? Do they stand by a young quarterback who's shown nothing but class, or let a frustrated receiver unravel the chemistry they're trying to build? Every team talks about accountability. This is where the Browns prove whether they mean it. If you're watching this unfold and thinking, this has been coming for a while, you're not wrong. This isn't the beginning of Jeudy's decline. This is just the moment everyone else caught up to it. Let us know what you think in the comments. Should the Browns cut ties with Jeudy? Can Sanders become the leader this team has been missing for years? Or are we just watching the next chapter of Cleveland's never-ending drama unfold? Like if you're done watching talent get wasted on bad attitudes. Subscribe if you want more raw breakdowns of the NFL's biggest implosions. And share this with someone who still thinks sideline blowups are just passion. Because in Cleveland, passion without accountability just got exposed. There's no more room for excuses in Cleveland. The moment Jerry Jeudy clapped in Shedeur Sanders' face, any benefit of the doubt he had left evaporated. That wasn't competitiveness. That wasn't passion. That was straight-up disrespect, broadcast for millions to see. And worse, aim at the one guy trying to hold his broken offense together. And now, the Browns are staring down a choice that's about way more than just football. Because let's be honest, this isn't about one sideline incident. This is about identity, about culture, about whether this franchise is finally ready to grow up. Jeudy's sideline meltdown wasn't some isolated flare-up. It was the culmination of everything that's been simmering under the surface. A veteran wide-out frustrated with his own lack of production. A team in offensive freefall. A rookie quarterback thrown into the chaos. and a moment that blew the lid off it all. For Shedeur Sanders, it was a test of leadership. For Jeudy, it was a test of character. And only one of them passed. Because Shedeur didn't just stay calm. He stayed professional. He didn't take the bait. He didn't embarrass the team. He didn't feed the narrative. He absorbed it like a true quarterback does and turned the focus back on where it should have been. Chemistry, trust, execution. He didn't run to reporters. He didn't get passive-aggressive on social media. He talked about needing to grow with his receivers, needing more time to connect, more reps, more accountability. And not once did he use Jeudy's name. Not once did he make it about himself. That's what leadership looks like. Meanwhile, Jeudy, he didn't just blow up. He made himself a story. Again, because it's not the first time. The pattern is impossible to ignore now. Jeudy has a long history of struggling to handle criticism, whether it's the media, fans, former players. He reacts with ego, not growth. When Steve Smith Sr. called him just a guy, Jeudy didn't use it as fuel. He got defensive. He clapped back, not on the field, but with attitude. And then he proved the point by continuing to underperform. Photos. That same mindset is what boiled over against the 49ers. Except this time, it wasn't a media member calling him out. It was his own quarterback by simply trying to lead the offense. And Jeudy couldn't handle it. And when a wide receiver thinks he's bigger than the playbook, bigger than the quarterback, bigger than the team, that's when the walls start to crack. That's why Jimmy Haslam had to step in. Let's be real. Haslam didn't just back Shedeur Sanders to protect a rookie. He did it to draw a line. A hard one. This franchise has had enough of dysfunction being passed off as passion, of players coasting on potential instead of producing results, of veterans acting like leaders while setting the worst example possible. Haslam has seen this movie too many times. And this time, he's not waiting for the third act collapse. He's calling it now. And it's not just about Jeudy. It's about everyone in that locker room. Because when the owner publicly supports the rookie after a sideline clash with a highly paid veteran, that sends a message, loud and clear. If you're not about the culture, if you can't handle the adversity, if you're going to tear down the guy trying to hold it together, you're next. Because this team is in the middle of an identity shift. It's not flashy. It's not loud. But it's happening. They're trying to build around leaders, not highlight reels. Around consistency, not chaos. And Shedeur Sanders, whether he's ready for it or not, has become the face of that shift. And you know what? He's handling it better than anyone expected. This is a rookie who walked into a broken offense, behind a shaky line, with a coaching staff still figuring out what works. And he's handled it all with grace. He's not blaming teammates. He's not hiding behind injuries or bad calls. He's learning, owning, leading. That's why Haslam is standing behind him. Because leadership like that doesn't show up in stat sheets, but it's how winning teams are built. Meanwhile, what does Jeudy bring right now? Drops, fumbles, missed blocks, sideline blow-ups, disrespect. And let's not forget the $52.5 million contract. That's not just underwhelming. That's a liability. When your cap hit is bigger than your contribution, your time starts running out. Fast. And for Jeudy, that clock is ticking loud. Photos. There's already noise from inside the building. Discussions about trading him, floating the idea of cutting ties altogether. And while releasing a player with that much money on the books would be bold, the Browns have made it clear no one is untouchable if they're hurting the team culture. Because this isn't just about the locker room. It's about the long-term direction of the franchise. Jeudy's action sent one message. I'm frustrated, and I'm putting myself above the team. Sanders' action sent the opposite. I'm frustrated too, but I'm going to own it, stay composed, and keep working. Which of those mindsets do you build around? Exactly. So where does this go from here? For Jeudy, the path forward is murky. If he wants to stay in Cleveland, or anywhere, really, he's going to have to take a long look in the mirror, because his production doesn't give him leverage anymore. And his attitude just erased whatever goodwill he had left. For the Browns, it's a culture decision now. Not a talent one. Not a depth chart one. But a message to the locker room. The Shedeur Sanders era is about accountability. About growing into a role not demanding it, about putting the team first, even when the spotlight's harsh. And if you can't buy into that, you don't belong here. Because the Browns aren't just trying to win games. They're trying to build something sustainable. Something that doesn't fall apart when adversity hits. And this moment, this blow-up, might be the turning point. You can feel it in the way Haslam spoke. You can feel it in the way the locker room has rallied behind Sanders. You can feel it in the growing silence around Jeudy. He made his choice. Now, the Browns have to make theirs. So what happens next? Will Jeudy be benched? Traded? Released? Will this be the moment the Browns finally stop tolerating players who can't lead, can't follow, and won't grow? Will Sanders continue to rise, not just as a quarterback, but as the tone setter for an entire franchise? And here's the part where things get really real. Jerry Jeudy might not just be on thin ice. He might already be halfway out the door. Because let's stop pretending this is salvageable without consequences. You don't publicly disrespect your quarterback, the rookie quarterback your team is trying to build around, and expect to keep business running as usual. Not when ownership is watching. Not when the whole league is watching. And especially not when you're the one underperforming. There are wide receivers in this league who can get away with an outburst. Guys putting up all-pro numbers. Guys who actually are the heart of their offenses. Jerry Jeudy isn't one of them. And that's the thing. This wasn't a moment of frustration from a guy carrying the team on his back. This was a meltdown from a receiver who's been struggling to make any kind of impact. Statistically, he's been a ghost. The drops, the fumbles, the complete lack of rhythm. It's all there week after week. And it's not just hurting the team. It's dragging down the entire offensive unit. So when Jeudy decided to turn that frustration outward to humiliate his quarterback on national television, it wasn't just poor judgment. It was career suicide. And now the Browns are stuck with a decision that might define the rest of their season. Cutting him would be a statement, not just to Jeudy, but to everyone on a roster. A message that no one is above accountability. That leadership matters more than draft pedigree. That this team is done tolerating ego when it's not backed up by effort. And honestly, what's the argument for keeping him? Because you can't argue production. You can't argue leadership. You can't argue chemistry. And you definitely can't argue professionalism. Meanwhile, look at Shedeur Sanders. This kid walked into a dysfunctional offense, barely given a chance to breathe, and still showed more composure than guys twice his age. Every week, he takes the hits. From defenders, from critics, from his own teammates. And he responds with focus. He's not perfect. No one's saying that. But he's coachable. He's accountable. He's trying. And in a league like the NFL, that counts for something. Especially in Cleveland field. Because let's not forget, this is a franchise that's been fighting to clean up its reputation for years. The headlines, the off-field distractions, the quarterback controversies. All of it. They've lived in chaos. But right now, they're standing at the edge of something different. They have a young quarterback who gets it. They have a locker room watching closely. And they have an owner, Jimmy Haslam, who's finally drawing the line. Haslam's public support for Sanders wasn't just about one player. It was about shifting the entire tone of the organization. And you don't send that kind of message and then turn around and let someone like Jeudy stay without any kind of accountability. Because here's the part that hits hardest. If they let this slide, it undoes everything they're trying to build. It tells every rookie in that locker room that professionalism doesn't matter. That disrespect can be ignored. That talent, or the idea of talent, outweighs leadership. And that's exactly the message this team can't afford to send. Not now. Not after the years of dysfunction they've endured. This is the crossroads. Jeudy had a chance to be part of the solution. To rise up. To be the veteran presence Sanders needs. Instead, he became the problem. And it's not like this was a split-second mistake. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment argument. This was targeted. This was public. This was humiliating. And no matter how many apologies might come behind closed doors, that footage already did the damage. So what's left? The Browns could bench him. Send a clear message without outright cutting ties. But then you've got a high-paid player sitting on the sidelines, sulking, reminding everyone of the standard you didn't enforce. they could try to trade him. But good luck finding a team willing to take on that contract and the baggage, especially mid-season, especially when he's not producing. Or they could do the bold thing, the dramatic thing, the right thing. Let him go, own the mistake, take the short-term hit, and show the locker room that this is not the same Browns franchise that used to sweep dysfunction under the rug. Because here's what they gain in return: credibility, integrity, unity. Shedeur Sanders isn't just the future of this team on the field. He's setting the tone for what leadership should look like off it. He's showing that you can be confident without being cocky, that you can face criticism without crumbling, that you can be young and still be a pro. And he's doing all that while his own teammate is melting down in his face. If the Browns want to build around Sanders, really build, then they have to protect the standard he's setting. That means removing the players who don't meet it, even if they're veterans, even if they're expensive, even if they came in with expectations. Because that's how real culture is built, not by slogans, but by decisions. And right now, the Browns have a decision to make. Jeudy chose his path. He made himself a story. Now it's up to the Browns to decide how the next chapter plays out. Let us know where you stand. Is it time for Cleveland to move on from Jeudy for good? Has Shedeur Sanders proven he's the kind of leader this team has been waiting for? What would you do if you were in that front office? Drop a comment and weigh in. Like this if you think professionalism has to matter. Subscribe if you want more real talk about the NFL's most explosive moments. And send this to someone who still thinks sideline drama doesn't have long-term consequences. Because in Cleveland, this wasn't just a blow-up, it was a breaking point.